He don't talk the talk, he talk the facts. It's research and some sense with Marcus Myers on the Pulse Radio Show.
We got 9 minutes and counting before the hour of 9 o'clock. You're listening to the Pulse Radio Show live right here on Hot 95.3 FM. And of course, you know, every week we got some very special guests, Marcus.
Very special guests indeed. And as I said earlier in the show, that I wanted to diversify the topics of conversation that we have. And this is one that I think I was looking forward to for like last, 5 weeks when me and Ken first spoke about the idea of bringing this lady on. Now, she needs no introduction, honestly. If you live in Barbados for at least 5 years, you know who this lady. I've been hearing her name ever since I was young. This is Miss Lynette Eastmond. She's a lawyer, a politician, but that is an understatement. She's the leader of the United Progressive Party. And she's also a founding member of the Barbados Film and Video Association. Good night, Lynette.
Good night. And thanks for having me. This is my first in-studio standing interview.
Standing
Really?
interview. You want
Yes.
chair?
No, I don't want chair.
A throne.
It's fantastic. It's fantastic, and it's a first.
Yeah.
It's a first.
And standing helps you think, so they say.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they say.
I noticed that you do your videos standing.
I do.
Exactly.
Research and some sense on Facebook. Anybody does.
Researching some serious. Plug it, thing. Plug it, man. Plug it.
But you're a very, to me, you were always a very unique political figure because of your affinity for the arts and how you help develop artists in the industry in Barbados. What draws you to doing the arts in the artist community?
The thing about it is, I think everybody wants to be around artists, even though they might not say that, because it's actually something that not everybody can do. You either have a talent for it or you don't. Right. You can't, you can't go. You can be trained, but you have to have that talent. And people like being around artists. When I first came back into practice in 2008, for some reason, most of the individuals who came to me for advice were either in music. I had some people in film, some people in technology, in all those areas. I don't quite know why, but that's the case. In terms of, for example, working with the Barbados Film and Video Association. Yeah. Now that for me was a very deliberate thing, because when I got involved in that, I had just come from being one of the negotiators for our trade agreements. Yeah. We were negotiating at the World Trade Organization and the FTAA. And what was very clear is that while it was that governments were saying you could no longer protect, what was clear to me is that people were coming together and protecting their market. So the agreements have nothing to do with you protecting your market as an individual or a group of people. It has to do with governments doing it.
Right.
So they could afford to open up their markets because they were already protected by the people. So, for example, in film, you hear about the guilds. Yeah. In the United States.
The Writers Guild, etc.
So they're organized.
Right.
So if as a filmmaker or cameraman or actor or whatever, you want to go there to work, you have to go through those people. Right. So when they say that the markets are open, they're not quite open because you can still have your organizations. And that was one of the reasons that I started to feel very, very strongly that organizations were very, very critical to Barbados in going forward.
And speaking of going forward, we had a brief conversation on the phone, but it was interesting when you said that you believe that Barbadian artists can go really, really, really far, right?
Yeah.
But the truth is that a lot of Bajan artists don't think that unless they leave Barbados. And I want to know if you agree with that.
No, I don't agree that you have to leave Barbados, but the truth is I understand why they would say that, because there's no one who has really demonstrated so far that they didn't have to leave.
Well, except for, I would say, DJ Puffy. Puffy found a way to create a platform.
But she's speaking specific to film, I believe.
Oh, no. I'm not speaking specifically to film. And I know of DJ Puffy's success, the success that he's had.
Yeah.
But I don't know that does his success, in your opinion, compare to, say, for example, Rihanna, who had to leave Barbados.
Well, that's a conversation I would like to have, but honestly, I think
And Puffy is the
Okay.
world freestyle Red Bull champion, which means he's still left.
man in China right now, so he gone.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, okay. But I guess he's based in Barbados. He used the platform, and the platform acted as a springboard to jump to other countries in a way. So but is that an exception? Do you think, or do you think other Bajans could do that too?
No, other Bajans could do that. So it means now that we have someone who has demonstrated that it can be done with DJ Puffy.
Right.
So I'm corrected in that. So in writing my thesis, I can now add that we have somebody, because that's the point. You see, if you're not, if you don't determine that your base is going to be here, it means that we don't get the income that is generated from whatever it is that you decide to do. Because even though throughout the Caribbean we've had artists who have been very successful, the money really hasn't come back into the country. Think about, I mean, Jamaica should be extremely wealthy, considering the number of artists that they've produced
That is so true.
that have become international. But the money really isn't coming back into the country in order to develop the country. It's going into somebody else's country. And this is why you would see countries like the United States. They'd take anybody from anywhere that has any talent. And it's all about money. It's about getting. So in Barbados, when we buy products, when we buy Rihanna products, for example, most of that money goes back into the United States, or all of it, really. So that's the truth. So what you really need, it isn't that you wouldn't travel, but what you need to have a base here, so that the intellectual property, whatever is going to be made and generated, is generated from here, and that the money comes back into Barbados.
So would you say that I would say the hindrance in the artist development, is that on the artist, or is it more on the system itself? The system doesn't really allow for artists to go past a certain
Well, it's
place.
probably chicken and egg.
Oh, okay.
There's this, the system is bad, and the system helps to create who we are. And generally speaking, anybody who tries to break out of that mold, they're treated very harshly in Barbados. Anybody at all who tries to break out of that mold and do something different, they're treated very, very harshly in Barbados. But then at the same time, we say we want entrepreneurship and innovation.
Right.
Innovation is breaking out of the mold and doing something different. So if you're going to have a society that's going to treat people harshly, when they say no, headphones shouldn't look like that, it'll look the other way around. You know, if you're going to call them an idiot and say he's talking nonsense and it can never happen, you know, you depress that person. In order for somebody then to hear his view, he has to go abroad, because it's just pressed down immediately.
Understood.
When you say something. So it's the system, and the system helps to create the people that we have, and then those people reinforce the existing system. So we have to find some mechanism to break out of that.
Well, a lot of people that are in that industry listen to the Pulse Radio Show. If you can give advice to young artists coming up in Barbados, what advice would you give them? Maybe with tools they could utilize in the country that they may not know about, etc.
Well, there are a number of things. I would start by saying that the biggest hindrance to our development is our own culture, the culture that we've created, the culture that usually says if somebody wants to do something that they can't do it. The response isn't let's find a way. You might be right. It is no, that can't happen. I do that already. X do it and it work. Can't work. I mean, can't work is something that is repeated in Barbados, so can't work. You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I think we have to change that attitude. And then I really believe in collaboration and working together. Ideally for me, what would be great is if all of the artists in the different genres could actually work together, because they're all connected.
Yeah.
The film is connected to music, it's connected to photography, it's connected to fine arts, it's connected to costume making, tailoring, makeup. Everything is connected. And I think we have to pull all that together. So one of the things that I would say is that artists need to think about collaborating more. There are very few organizations, primarily made up of artists that are actually successful.
Yeah.
Very few. In fact, I would say one of the few is probably the Barbados Film and Video Association. We're going to be 10 years old this year.
Nice. I got my award home too.
So, we have to do that. Artists take pride in saying that they don't belong to organizations, but I think organizations are key. And the other thing that's key is the business component.
Right.
And the business people who come in to deal with artists have to understand that the reason that the person is different from me, and I'm an ordinary person, is because
that is not true. That is not true. I think that's where we're going to skim over that. That is not a true statement.
Because they can do something special,
Right.
okay? So if they're like that, it means that, because I hear people say about a lot of artists, oh, he's difficult to work with, she's difficult. I think that sometimes that is just inherent in who the person is. So it is our fault, the managers and the business people, that they have not learned how to deal with each individual artist, so we get the best out of them.
Okay. So you say collaborating on the artist side, but what about you say the same organizations? And on your end, would you be willing to collaborate with, like, say, the new administration that just came in, because you had a lot of ideas for the creative economy when you were running? Would you want to, like, in some way incorporate those into the ideas they have?
What might our ideas? If
Yeah,
we want
the
to
ideas. Yeah. UPP's ideas that you had. Would you be interested in, like, maybe collaborating with the new administration?
Oh, I'm always interested in collaborating.
Really?
Collaboration is my middle name.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I was thinking, because of the new administration, maybe that can make some changes and stir some things up. But
the thing about it is the industry has to be treated seriously. When we talk about the creative economy, I'm talking about treating it seriously. And let me tell you what's the difference between treating something seriously and not taking it seriously. So I will say for you, for example, because what I'm talking about, what we were talking about, is creating a new industry in Barbados that you're going to push. So when you compare this, say, with the international business sector, when we decided that we were going into the international business sector, we identified the particular products. We determined where the markets would be. There was collaboration between the private sector and government, very, very close collaboration. Recommendations were made to the government by the private sector. In fact, the international business sector for a long time was largely driven by the private sector and not the government. But the government was the chief facilitator. Now, the other thing has to do with money and doing what needs to be done. Now, if you're serious about an industry, you're going to put money behind it.
Yeah.
So if you're saying that this is an industry, and in our research, this industry is bigger, far bigger than tourism.
Right.
And if we can get or share the same tourism share, the percentage that you get from tourism, if we could get that share out of this industry, we would be looking at bringing in $3 billion into Barbados.
Wow.
Now, if you're serious about this industry, in the same way that you put so much money into tourism, you would put it into this industry too. So if you do not see, when the budget comes up, a serious allocation to the industry, understand that people are not being serious.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there is something else that I wanted to speak to you about. I know we could talk about this all night long, but you are one of the 3 leaders of political parties that are female, and this is the first time in history in Barbados this has ever happened. How do you feel about that? Do you care? Is that something like you
mean like if it's a milestone?
Yeah. Do you register that stuff? Like I'm one of the.
Well, somebody pointed it out to me. I remember I was talking to a man in the supermarket, and he pointed it out to me, and I said, "Oh yeah, that's true." But we're not like the United States.
Yeah.
They recognize every single first.
Yeah.
This is why I recognize that this was the first time that I was. But I mean, we don't. But it's a good thing, and I think it was inevitable in terms of the fact that we have more women coming into politics.
Oh, I thought you meant foolish.
Well, I wouldn't go there, but women have always had to work harder.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my next question.
Yeah, they do. I mean, pretty much when you look across the political landscape, and you look at the men that have come forward, I mean, they range from brilliant to dumb.
Dummies, boy.
Right, but
To be frank.
Their dumbness
Yeah.
is not an issue.
Yeah.
Right.
But it tends to be an issue for women. So, I mean, but that's just how it is. I always say, my mantra always is understand who you are and where you stand in the struggle. So where you stand in the struggle as a woman is, yeah, you gotta work harder than a man. That's how it is now. So you do what you have to do to get where you want to get.
But can you explain what, in your experience, what it was that the hurdles you had to overcome, specifically to women, that you realized over the years?
Yeah, well, but women, these are things that women understand, and if you read about it, you will see it. You're at a table, you're having a discussion, and you make a point, and a man agrees with you. When you come to the end of the discussion, somebody would actually say, "Oh, and as Marcus pointed out, have you ever experiered that?"
My mother complained about that before. Well, not complaining. Hi, Mom.
There you go. I mean, and it is just a reality. So if you don't speak up and say, well, that it was me, but then you're not sure if to say it, because then somebody, she had to do that.
Yeah.
But then immediately will walk away with the idea that, okay, this is Marcus's brilliant idea, and they've forgotten that you said it.
Yeah.
So, women deal with those things all the time.
But how did you push past the pack and like separate yourself from both men and women to the point to get to where you are now?
Well, in addition to the philosophy about knowing who you are and where you stand in the struggle, and that's one thing that every human being has to understand. If you don't understand that, you can't move forward really to do anything. Understanding who you are, your weaknesses, your strengths, and also understanding how people see you. When they look at you, what is it that they see? And in Barbados especially, people do look at you and see certain things. I mean, one of the first things that a Barbadian will say about anybody is who he is, though, where he come from.
Yeah.
As if it matters, in that you are saying something. They should be paying attention to what you're saying,
right.
Not trying to figure out who's the father, who's the mother, that kind of thing. But that is normal. So my other thing in addition to that is that I make no excuses for myself. I live in what I call a no excuse zone. I am not going to say, I've heard people say, for example, that they could have been a doctor today, but their chemistry teacher didn't like them. I mean, and like, you're 55 years old and you're talking about your teacher when you were 10.
Yeah.
So like,
at some
it's
point,
true.
you gotta
It's
move on
true.
from that.
Well, yeah, because you could have done chemistry. You could have any other time if that was a requirement. So I try not to make excuses for myself. I don't blame anybody for where I am or what I'm doing. So that is what gives me the ability to push past a lot of issues. I mean, and a lot too has to do with your upbringing and the confidence that the people around you have instilled in you, how you feel about yourself, if you're happy with yourself. A lot of that has to do with your upbringing and your parents and whoever guided you in that process. And luckily for me, I think throughout my life, probably from birth right through my career, I've practically always had people who encouraged me and allowed me to strike out and do things. You go and do it, and you come back and tell us how you're getting on with it, And people who are willing to listen to your views, people who are willing to allow you to argue and disagree with them.
Civilly.
Yeah.
Civilly. Yeah. I like that. So you mean basically have a circle that would allow you to kind of develop yourself and challenge your ideas, etc.
Yeah. And challenge them and say, no, I don't agree with you.
Okay, here's something that I realized, and it's good that you're here to really I have a theory about something, right? I feel like politics is changing dramatically. Dramatically and really, really fast. Okay, when you ran in I believe it was the city of Bridgetown, right? And there was somebody that was running against you that had no political experience at all, right? But they found a way to translate their social media following into then that being qualification for political standing, to the point that they got, you know, a good amount of votes. And I want to know if, seeing how social media is, how now has a strong influence on politics, whether it's Trump, you know, etc., are you going to change your politics now because of social media?
Well, no, I'm not going to change my politics, but I would see social media just as what it is. It is a medium for delivering a message. So your political message would be the same. But I take the point that you make about politics changing dramatically. And I mean, maybe you could tell me before you voted, and if you didn't vote, don't say I didn't vote. You could still answer the question. Before you voted, did you actually consider the policies and then vote? Or did you just feel emotionally that you were going to vote for a particular person? Is it more an emotional thing? Or do you sit and you look through the manifestos?
Sit and
don't say look through the manifestos.
Give me cliff notes.
At least, listen. Yeah. Listen to the policies or the proposals, and then make your.
Here's the thing, I did. I thoroughly looked through and listened to everybody, right? But there are a lot of people, especially in the younger generation, that are coming up. And you have to have a certain level of celebrity status, and you have to have a certain level of being an entertainer along with being a politician that people are looking for. I think that Barack Obama put his foot through the door for that, because he has a lot of charisma, and he became not only a politician but a cultural icon. But then we are now seeing it, whether it's with Trump, and then we're seeing it in Barbados now, that a lot of people that have a big social media following that are more entertainers, they're now finding a way to kind of sway people's opinions when it comes to politics, to the point that it is now an argument whether or not someone with no political experience is actually like qualified to run for office, right? So what I'm wondering is, maybe, I don't know if now how the politicians were before, maybe the politicians, maybe be more entertainers or have a more celebrity kind of following, kind of a social media, be in people's face on Instagram, snapping. What you eating?
Well, I guess we're becoming more Americanized.
Stupid. Oh yeah, that Americanized. That sounds good.
More Americanized. I don't know that is necessarily a good thing, but that's where we seem to be going.
Yeah.
If you look at some of the other countries in the world, the politicians are far from being celebrities. They are becoming more so managers.
Agree.
And when you look at these countries, their economies are doing very well. Well, my favorite go-to place these days is New Zealand, for example. Most people don't know who the leader in New Zealand is at all.
No. Mr. New Zealand.
But they have sat down. They've reviewed their entire country, their economy, all their laws, everything. They're even doing better in cricket than they used to before. And this is a very quiet country that does very well. Focuses on getting rid of corruption, focuses on reform, all of these things. Those are the countries that I admire. But we have a lot of focus now on what I think is a fairly disruptive kind of society in the United States. And I would hope that we don't follow that. I mean, to some extent, they can afford to do that, because you would see in the next general election, or maybe the next one, they will switch completely and go to a completely different person and, retain exactly who they are. It's very difficult for countries like ours in the Caribbean to do that kind of pivot. What I would like to see people focus on more is people who they believe actually have the ability to run the country when they get into office. That's what we need. A country like Barbados doesn't run itself. The United States, to some extent, runs itself. It doesn't matter if Trump is there or Barack is there. There's some big economic positions that they take, policies that they take. Like he wants to renegotiate NAFTA, and he's done it with the Mexicans and the Canadians and all that. But within the United States, they have systems where the entrepreneurs continue to innovate. They continue to set up new businesses and all of that. The people in the music industry, technology, they continue to do whatever it is that they're doing, irrespective of whether Trump is there or not. In Barbados, we don't have that luxury as yet. It is very important who is there actually managing the economy and making decisions. So, and I think that because for years, the people that have come forward were people like that. People believe that as long as you are called a minister, that you will actually be able to do the job. But that's not true. You actually have to have the ability to do it.
Right.
And I don't think that we're focusing on that enough.
Yeah, because the main thing that I heard people saying was the reason why somebody could come and just get up and do it with their social media following and get votes and they're totally capable is because there were people in, history has shown that there were people in positions that were ministers that didn't really know what it was doing until they got the job, and then they kind of like said they would figure it out. So if he could figure it out, well then anybody could figure it out.
The thing is that you may not know exactly what to do as a minister, but you do have some track record at running something. And that's the difference, because it is not going to be possible for you not to have run anything and then go and run a ministry successfully. It's not going to be possible. You would have had to be out there running something,
some
a
kind of
business,
organization or something,
a school, a church, something, in order to run a ministry properly.
Yeah, not just prefab school or something. Class president. You need more than that.
Probably a bit more.
You think you need a bit more too.
Probably a bit more.
But okay, so before you go, I mean, because we could honestly go on, but I want to know for our demographic that listens, people in their 20s, moving forward in politics, how do you think people could get more engaged? What's the best way for us to get, especially in the age of misinformation?
Yeah, well, our philosophy, especially in the age of misinformation, I would like people to get more involved. And our philosophy in the UPP is really about more participation in the democracy. Now, right now, I think a lot of Barbadians believe that they have discharged their responsibility as a citizen after they have voted. You vote, and then I put one a day, and you're supposed to do X, Y, Z. I don't believe in that. I believe that from the community right up, people should be involved. Right now we have before the parliament integrity and in public life legislation. I would like the individuals in their 20s to want to know what that is about. And if you can get some group together, I am quite prepared for me and some other lawyers that looked at it, to highlight what is in the bill, because I do believe personally that corruption destroys a country. Right. And I believe that we are at the point now where corruption is one, it creates a situation where there's less competition. If you can't compete in your own market, it is difficult to learn how to compete abroad. It keeps new entrants out of the market. And then those who have this status quo, they become richer and richer. Then they take that money, they put it in political campaigns in the future, so that politics becomes more expensive and it becomes dirtier every single election cycle. And I believe a large part of it has to do with the corruption that is now involved. And I'm not guessing this. I did hear a business person say, and it was reported in the newspaper, that the reason that he has to fund political parties is so that he can get contracts. And that's not how it's supposed to go. They're supposed to go to tender, and the best person is supposed to get the contract. But if you have a country where the younger people coming up are not able to compete and get those contracts of whatever kind, because there's a status quo where you're supposed to pay something and give somebody this in order to get in there, we're going to have a big problem.
Okay.
And I think we're beginning to have that. We're beginning to see that problem because the truth of the matter is Barbados is stagnating at the moment. If you look at some of the countries that became independent around the same time as Barbados, we're way behind.
Yeah. Well, I honestly see that too, and I wish I knew as much as you did so that I could really, when I say it, people won't say that I just talking foolishness. But okay, well, this is a really great interview.
A long one too, boy.
A long one too.
Long one.
Very serious. Before we go, I heard Red access to one of our guests already. What is your favorite food?
My favorite food at the moment.
At the moment.
I don't even know what my favorite food is.
Macaroni pie?
Nah.
Chips?
Nah, I can't.
Nuggets?
I can't.
Gas station
Nah,
hot
dog?
no, I can't do that.
Bulldog?
We in the UPP, it's part of our platform was
Boo,
health,
boo.
health,
So lame.
health and
That is
wellness.
so lame.
Health and wellness. So I
Don't
know
eat the lettuce and
I have to say that my favorite food now will have
Kale.
to be a vegetable wrap.
A vegetable wrap?
Kale and spinach
Grilled,
and everything.
grilled,
Grill, boy. That's like a nightmare there, boy.
Oh, exactly.
I had one at a seminar I went to recently, and I always joke I'm a meatitarian. I love
Yeah.
steak.
A meatitarian.
No, I cannot like have a vegetarian dish.
Right.
Like, but this it actually tasted pretty good. As you
Yeah.
said, like the vegetables are grilled first.
Yeah.
And then they're in the like
wrap.
the
The wrap,
wrap. And
yeah.
I don't know what they do. I don't know what they is grilled like, or they is sauteed, like whatever it is.
They grilling it on a
use.
meat grill though.
I don't know, but it was
Just tease
good.
them.
Yeah.
And,
So
I'm
it's-
I'm not the kind of person to be bigging up a vegetable wrap.
yeah. So that's it.
Yeah, well, Miss Lynette Eastmond, thank you very much for coming.
Thanks for having
and,
me.
and I'm glad that you know we see a lot of politicians in the media, but we never really get to speak to them one-on-one and see what they're saying, what they're thinking, what they can impart to us.
In terms of
So-
the Film and Video Association, how does one become involved with that?
Oh, you can simply apply. Damien Pinder is currently the president. We have a Facebook page.
What is it? You know it offhand?
You
can search for it. You can
Yeah,
search for
you
it.
can. It's Barbados Film and
Film and
Video
Video
Video Association,
Okay.
and we have a group and we have a page as well. The group is probably easier to find. All the things coming up are posted in there. We're going to have our film festival coming up later in the
Nice.
year, and we hope that everybody will come out and see the local films. So that's good. We have a lot of young people in film.
Damien was in my class. That's
Oh, nice.
So.
Yeah.
Well, recommend one Bajan movie for everybody before we go.
Well, the Beja movie that is I think the most recent one is Winston Hall,
Oh, yeah.
which is by Rommel Hall. But I should also say that I was a producer on the film A Caribbean Dream,
Plug yourself there.
and that film has done quite well. We picked up awards in the UK and the US.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I was in that.
Yeah.
I played a fairy.
You played a what?
Yeah.
You were
fairy?
in it.
Thank you for coming.
Wait, what was a fairy? What was a fairy?
Literally a fairy. Me.
You had glitter and thing?
Listen.
Can we see?
That movie is one to watch. You gotta watch it.
Okay.
But you gotta watch it. But yeah, that's what they said. That's what was on these.
He was like Peter Pan?
You gotta watch the thing.
What were you wearing again?
I said you gotta watch the thing. I would have still asked you.
Not much. They weren't wearing much.
Can we forget?
You had on a jock strap?
Where can I see this?
You can see the trailer. The trailer.
YouTube?
It's on YouTube.
The trailer's on YouTube, so you could just look
I'll
for
check it
Caribbean
out.
Dream Barbados. and
But
it's-
thank you for coming. And before I
Thank
embarrass
you.
myself anymore, that.
Before the fairy embarrasses himself?
No, I have to look at it again because I didn't realize it was
No,
there.
it was an extra. It was an extra role though. It was an
Yeah.
extra role. It wasn't a main role.
I can
But,
screenshot that and make a meme out of that.
But don't though. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.
And I have your number now, so I could call you whenever you need, some
Yeah.
more tips.
Sure.
And explanations.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so
Alright.
much for coming, Miss Lynette Eastmond.